Good evening, everyone. With the posted time having arrived and a quorum of members present, I'll call the Public Health and Safety Committee for Monday, May 24th, 2021 to order. The first item on our agenda is the minutes of our 3 previous meetings. We've actually had a couple special meetings in there, so we have minutes from 4/20 of 21, 4/27 of 21, and 5/17 of 21, minutes of which are all in the packets. Any revisions or updates to the minutes necessary? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes? Motion by Herbst. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed, so all 3 sets of minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. You'll notice that we have all of the July 1 renewals on our agenda for tonight. There are no denial recommendations. So we have everything from amusement devices to cigarette dealers to cab drivers to bartenders, taverns, all of it is in one big batch there. With no denials, I will accept the standard motion to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff. Motion by Wadinsky. Is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Those are all approved. Item number 3 is to consider requests for outdoor music and service of alcohol for a car show event at the Eagles Club at 1703 South 3rd Avenue on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. You have that request in your packets, and we do have a rep from Eagles here to talk with you about the event if you have questions for him. Mr. Kelch, would you like to come up and walk us through your event a little bit? And welcome.
Stop here, you want me to grab the mic?
No, right here's fine. You at the podium. You can.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Sore back.
Uh-huh.
So our intent is to have a car show throughout the course of the day, followed by some acoustic music, and then by a soul and funk band that will end by 10 o'clock. So what we'd like to do is to have hamburgers, hot dogs, beer, and mixed drinks outside inside of our baseball diamond, which of course is fenced in, et cetera, et cetera. We'll have I'm 21 and wristbands checked throughout the whole course of the whole thing, so we're not having any of those sort of issues. And we'll be done with noise about 10 o'clock.
Okay. We have approved outdoor events at Eagles before, and none have had any problem. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kelch? If not, is there a motion to approve the event? Motion by Herbst. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Motion carries. That item's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks. Item number 4 is to consider an amendment to special event dining in the street to include one additional evening on Friday, June 18th, 2021. The requester is the Wausau River District, and you'll recall a couple meetings ago we approved dining in the street for the entire season, but Blake is here from Main Street. They're actually requesting one more date. The 400 block is hosting Vic Ferrari the night of June 18th, and they would like to have dining in the street that night for that concert. Blake, did you want to come up and talk about the event a little bit? You're welcome to.
There we go. Always happy to address y'all. Yeah, so it was brought to our attention that Vic Ferrari will be bringing, I think, what are they calling it, Symphony on the Rocks, coming
Yes.
down on June 18th. They would definitely love to see us use our restaurants versus bring in food vendors. So we have been talks with their organizers already. They're on board with us hosting it in conjunction. Just a matter of if y'all are willing to amend our application to expand it to that one Friday, as well as our Wednesdays and Saturday evenings.
Okay. What are your thoughts, committee? And that's a defined period of time. Is it 6 to 10 or something? 5?
From 5 until 9 we have
5
the
to 9.
event, and then the street is closed from 3 until 10 p.m.
Okay. Jim?
Does the police department have any concerns about traffic reduction with that event, or? Thanks, Matt.
And the short answer is no. And anytime we shut
Please
streets,
elaborate.
you know, the fact of the matter is we have to wait. Anytime we shut a street down, it limits our access to the properties from fire and EMS or a police response. I think there's an inherent risk every time we do that, but we also see a significant benefit to our community in our downtown area. we've experimented with this. It was successful, and we don't have any objection to it.
Okay.
I was just concerned because it's going to be probably a larger event than normal, but I think it's a good idea to have it. So thanks for your answer there.
Thank you.
Perfect. Any additional questions? With a motion and a second on the floor then to approve the event, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. Motion carries. Let's see here. Item number 5 is discussion and possible action, delegating Class 3 special event processes and approvals to the Wausau Marathon County Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. In your packets, you have a request from the department to simplify the process a little bit. Class 3 events are the ones that are basically simple for logistics. They don't require city services, and they contain very few guests or expected guests. Those applicants also typically are booking park facilities, and so rather than have people have to go through the clerk's office and the park department, the request is that we would delegate the approval to the park department for those real small events. Class 2 and Class 3 would still happen here at City Hall. And we have Marcus from the Park Department on WebEx, and we have Jamie also, Parks Director, if anyone has some questions for them. If not, is there a motion to approve delegating those small events to the Park Department? Motion by Wadinsky, is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Go ahead, Leslie. Yep, sure.
So a couple of things, I know Mary and I talked with Marcus today. So right now, one thing that we have is we have the $40 application fee in our fee schedule. So we would be thinking that there would not be an application to fill out and there would not be an application fee. Is that what the committee is also thinking?
The fee was typically to cover the administrative cost and the administrative process. So if they're streamlining that process and the person is already filling out a park reservation application and paying for the park facility, and then that's all being handled at a central location, if there's no separate processing happening in your office, I think that's fair. What do you guys think? Because the parks are already collecting their time through the reservation process.
Do we know how many events this entails a year?
No, maybe 10, Mary?
Yeah, there's just a couple that I can think of, like Blessing of the Pets, sometimes on the 400 block, and there's weddings at Stewart Park. But really, we don't have a lot of Class 3 events.
I don't think there would be a problem.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see. All right, and we had a motion and a second on the floor. Additional questions? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries as well. Item number 7, discussion and possible, 6. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on amending section 8.08.170 licenses. And this is our pet license item. And you'll see some correspondence in the packets from the city attorney's office. The finance committee started this discussion last week but ran out of time. And so where we're at, as you'll recall, probably in 2012 or 13, the city's compliance with pet licensing was very, very low, like 10%. And so with that, we formed a subcommittee to study the issues of all things animal enforcement. And the result of that committee actually was the creation of our animal control division, hiring of the humane officer, changing a number of fines and fees. We made the animal control program into an enterprise fund so that fees and fines collected for pet-related violations would go to support that program. And so that, in that roll-up of things also was an escalation in the license fee and then a credit that would be given to people for microchips, spay and neuter, to get that fee back down. In addition to that, the subcommittee thought that it should use kind of a carrot and stick approach. And so in addition to the credits to incentivize spay, neuter and whatnot, microchip, they also substantially increased the late fee associated with late pet licensing, in addition to the fine that a person gets for unlicensed animal. And so this year, between the humane officer and the clerk's office, trying to work together to figure out the mechanics of the enforcement for these late things, the request has come in to reduce that late fee back down. They believe that it actually is hindering licensing compliance. And so in addition to the citation, the fee on top of that, the two together can total nearly $400 for a pet owner that is already proceeded almost halfway through the year without a license. And so what was happening in the past, and I guess the clerk's office can correct me if I'm wrong, you know, when you get to the point where you start to be ready to enforce on some of these and issue the fines, and April 1st is the cutoff for, before they get the late fee. So by the time you get to May or June and you're ready to send out tickets for this, you're halfway through the year. And so pet owners then would realize the severity of these fees and say, well, I'm just not going to license, and go get the license in December instead. And so then you have 6 more months of noncompliance. And fines or unpaid fines or no fines, depending on how the enforcement shakes out. And so separate from that, the city attorney then undertook a review of the fee schedule and determined that the late fee by state statute should not exceed $5. You can set your fee for the license wherever the council wants to set it, but your late fee, she feels, should be dialed back to $5. And so that's kind of where we've settled. I don't know if we have her on WebEx tonight. Ann, we don't. Have you worked on some of this with her, Tara?
A little bit, but
Okay.
today we're going to be talking about just the 5-month thing changing from 4 months to 5 months, and the fee thing is going to go to finance.
Finance, right. So finance is taking that up again tomorrow, I believe. That's coming.
Yeah, we didn't hear it over here, but we
Darn it.
Okay.
Okay, so tonight, the Public Health and Safety Committee is just talking about changing language in our ordinance to go from 4 months to 5 months as far as when vaccination is required. The Finance Committee will be taking up the monetary thing, but since they're going together, it's helpful that Lisa explains and gives that background.
Right. And the packet materials include a scope of the entire problem. Because in your packet materials, you realize there's substantial discussion of the fees. But we have received feedback from veterinarians before about vaccinating very young animals that were recently obtained by people, you know, mid-year and whatnot. So what are your thoughts, committee, on changing the animal age for the vaccine requirement? Thoughts? Becky?
I'm for it because this happened to me. I got a puppy 3-4 years ago, and my vet, yeah, she was sick, and my vet was not going to, I had to come with a letter. You know, I had to go through a lot of rigmarole to say that she was not comfortable in rabies vaccination, you know, until she was older. So I think it happens more than it, you know, than you
More
would
than we
think.
know, yeah.
Right, and there's, you know, some vets are okay, you know, well, some say, well, we can do it at 6 weeks. Well, my vet complained to me at the time about this ordinance for that. I think it should be, you know, what's best for the pet.
Well, and our goal, whether it be through the fees or the enforcement or the process, has never been to make Wausau pet unfriendly. I think we want to be a pet-friendly community, but we also want to promote and encourage responsible pet ownership, which is everything from the licensing, the vaccinations, to quality care for them, to, you know, not letting them run loose, to, you know, making sure that they're not biting folks and whatever. I mean, the pet realm of things that this committee has dealt with has been a long, long road. And, you know, everything from pet fancier permits to all of these license fees to low compliance and, you know, what to do at what stage. So, you know, if we change this tonight, that will probably make things a lot easier for vets and pet owners. And then finance will take up the money part tomorrow, I believe, for the fee, because they ran out of time for it last week, so, or 2 weeks ago, rather. Is there a motion to approve the change in the ordinance to adjust the age? Motion by Wadinsky, is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or comments? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. So that brings us to item 7 on our agenda, discussion and possible action on ordinance temporarily amending section 8.08.010, certain creatures forbidden, adding subsection D, exceptions, And you'll see in your packets that we have received a request from the Parks Department to allow them to have a special event of sorts whereby they would contract with a farmer to bring in goats to eat invasive species on Barker Stewart Island, and then host a little public information event where they would allow people to come and, view these animals and watch them working from a distance, and even have the equivalent of a little petting zoo, I believe. And to do that without opening up the ability for folks citywide to run out and get goats, as they have chickens and a number of other things, we have to add an exception to this ordinance for these specific events that are managed by Park and Rec. I know Jamie Polly has worked on this extensively as well. Jamie, did you have anything that you want to talk with the committee about?
I logged on to the WebEx too because I have a picture of what it might look like from the city of Rosemount. But I did include a memo in your packet that went through a number of kind of the bullet items of how we got to this point. And this is something I had learned about through our National Park and Rec Association as well as in Minnesota. And then in talking with the mayor, it was kind of something that, it's a very good thing to try at least once anyway to see how it works. But it's a way of controlling invasive species where you don't have to use chemicals. And it's something that many communities do. I've got a whole file in my computer of research we've done before we brought this forward. We've talked to a farmer who has goats that they can bring, and this would be for Barker Stewart Island. As you've seen out there, we have done some vegetation management. It's really completely covered with buckthorn and honeysuckle. So we have cut it down once because what was out there was just way too large. We could not have done the goats with those large of species out there. So now we're waiting for a regrowth, and then once there's a big enough regrowth, that's when it's beneficial to bring in the goats to eat that down. Buckthorn and honeysuckle are something you will never get rid of completely. It's so hardy out there, and it will continue to grow. So if this does work, and it seems to be something that's cost effective for the city and the ability to not use chemicals, it may be something we do every year, which then if it works this year, we'd come back to public health and safety and get a permanent amendment to this for our department to continue to use this. I do not see our department really using goats in any other area of the city other than on these islands where the use of chemicals is something we really don't want to do, and it's something that can be secured to the public, and they can do their job. They're here depending on how many goats we get. They could be here 2 weeks, they could be here a month, and then they leave, and then we have regrowth again, and then we could bring them back. But the goats tell us when they're full and they don't have anything more to eat, and the farmers take them away. So it is a fun thing. But what we would like to do too as that special event that Lisa mentioned is probably a one afternoon, few hour family event, either down by the island along River Life area or at the 400 block, and use it really as maybe a fundraiser for the goats to bring them here, and also really for education. Why do we have goats on Barker Stewart Island? And we'll be putting up some signage as well about the invasive species, and even for people to look for those invasive species in their yard, because it's something we just don't want in the city, and we need to control it. We have a lot at Oak Island as well, and Isle of the Ferns, that we have other groups come and pull. So this is a way of doing that. And I can really quickly just show you, this was a picture that Alan Wozlowski, actually our assistant city engineer, sent me from he was in Rosemount for, I think, a basketball tournament, and said, "Oh, is this what you mean?" So on the screen, you can see it's got this is an electric fence that would separate. It would be on the island. The goats don't like water, apparently, so we don't have to fence along the water. They won't go in the water. But we will put this fence in wherever they're working, whether it's the whole southern or northern portion of the island, and we'll do everything north of that main trail, or we might do it in sections. But it would be this fence. This is a double fence. The farmers bring the fence. They put it up. It is an electric fence, but it's not one like your cattle are around, so it's not something that's really harmful, but it will keep that separation. The idea is that the public will not touch these goats. They can view them, they'll stay back, they'll view them. That's why there's this double fence here. But if we do that special event, then we maybe could bring one or two of the nice ones that they use in petting zoos for little kids to see, what it's all about. So that's what we're asking. Kind of fun, but also doing a good thing for our natural environment as well.
Sure. The way I believe that we have this set up is that if the committee approves it, this is actually a permanent exemption for you to run these specific events, so you don't have to keep coming back, right, Tara? Because it doesn't have dates on it.
You had wanted the whole thing, I thought, to expire, so that's how it's set up now, is the whole thing's going to expire
Oh,
October
10/31, okay, because I was going to
Right.
say, I didn't see in your highlighted area in the packet, I didn't see a finite date as far as what you've had highlighted there. Okay, so a one-year trial, so October 31st. Much like all of the pandemic provisions, if we wanted to continue this and find out it worked well, we'll take stock of the effort at the end of the season and see how it went. And if it's something that we want to make permanent and there's not been problems with it, then we would approve it without a sunset date then. Any questions for Jamie at all? Go ahead, Jim.
I had some negative response from my constituents, although very few people. But with this control and these locations, I think it's probably a good idea. So I'll support it in those locations. That's good.
Okay. I also had some people, because one media publication ran an April Fool's story similar to this. And so I think when this came around the second time, at least I had a couple people call me and ask me if we were serious. And I said, well, actually, yes, this time we are. It's a one-time trial, so be that what it may. It wasn't a negative reaction. It was just that they had seen facetiously the April Fool's story and then wondered if this was that again or if we actually were going to try it. So the mayor's here also. I guess, Mayor, do you have any comments you want to make? She's brought a little friend along. Ironically, people have been sending her goats.
Yeah,
Since
so-
last year.
Yeah, so Madison started their goat program last year. They've been eating invasive species, and I tweeted about it, and since then I've been overwhelmed with goats. I'm very enthusiastic about this trial, so I'm excited that we looked into it. I'm excited that it's good for the environment to have goats eating instead of using pesticides by the river. I think that's great. So if you have complaints, feel free to send them my way. I can send him a goat, maybe.
Apparently, there's a supply available. So, what are your thoughts, committee? Oh, Matt, come on up.
I just want to highlight a couple successes here. Number one, this is a partnership between city departments, Jamie's people, and the police department, because going back in time, this for us, like, I want things environmentally safe, but this is a public safety issue. And people didn't feel safe out on one of the gems of this city, which is that island and the trails and the investment in it, because of the underbrush and the inability to see. People would come around a corner pushing a stroller with their children out for a walk, and they would end up with people off the trail, hiding in the bushes. We had encampments there, and they've done a beautiful job of leveling all that underbrush. I would encourage everyone to go take a walk out there and see what it looks like. And so now you can see what's ahead of you, and nobody can jump out and, because that was
Surprise you.
happening. Right, so when the first concept of goats came up, the scary thing to us was, first off, we were informed the size of the buckthorn was trophy out there because of how long it had been left and the concern about how do we keep it down. And then hearing that chemicals are the ideal way to do that to keep that down, that didn't seem appealing to anyone. And then goats came up, and that stands for greatest of all time. And we're really looking forward to seeing what this looks like. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So with that, is there a motion to approve the trial? Motion by Herbst. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That item is approved. So we'll give that a seasonal trial. Thank you for all your research on that. Let's see here. So item number 8 brings us to the operations report from the fire department for April of 2021. You have the reports in your packets. Anything that you wish to ask Interim Chief Bartek about that you see on the report? Anything that you want to discuss, Chief, on the report that's notable? We can't make him come all the way down here and not have him talk for just a minute.
And never pass an opportunity at an open mic. April was a fairly quiet month for us. Of course, picked up May 1 with that 5-alarm fire we assisted safer with. That'll be on next month's report. This report does reflect a few of the changes since the new software program. We're still trying to narrow in on what that final product is going to look at. It'll probably take us a few months to query the right data. Our inspector's having a little bit of trouble there. So if there's things in the report that are not there, they're used to seeing, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to tweak it to what I kind of feel like you may want to see, and we'll go from there. So if there's anything like that, just let me know. So other than that, everything's good by the FD. Looking forward to tomorrow night. We're going to have the new twins parked out front here. I'm probably going to have to maybe talk with Dustin about maybe blocking the parking. And we're going to have a photo op with the council with
Would
the
be a
two new trucks
good
out there.
reminder for us to also remind the council to park elsewhere and not right out front. I mean, I think a lot of us park out front that night for those meetings, and so if we can have our folks park on Fourth or something, or on McClellan, and then we'll come around from the back, because, yeah, we took delivery of 2 new fire engines. I saw one responding emergently this afternoon, so.
The guys were so excited. They went into service so fast, it was crazy. Engine 1 arrived on Wednesday, and by Friday, it was making calls, which is a huge undertaking to get them loaded. We'll wait till you see them with all the equipment and everything mounted. So, yeah, we'll have them here 4:30 tomorrow, because we know finance meets at 5:15. We want to be here plenty early.
Yep.
We'll have that photo. I've got a photographer, one of our photographers lined up at 6:20.
Nice.
And looking forward to that, looking forward to showing those trucks off. It's kind of show and tell for adult firefighters.
Nice. We're going to do a hard stop on finance at 6:15, so we have time for a photo and a display on the trucks before the council meeting. So go ahead,
Great.
Jim.
I don't know if I should ask this, but what trucks are replaced and where are they going?
Sure. So engine 1 and engine 3 have been replaced. Actually, it was engine 2 and engine 4 that were replaced. So 4 was our oldest. Excuse me, no. Engine 4 and engine 3 were replaced. We did a reshuffling of numbers. So engine 4 was our reserve engine. Engine 3 was our oldest, second oldest engine responding out of Station 3. That's the one that the motor just blew on in early April. And so we took former engine 1, shipped that out to Station 2. That's new engine 2. And the 2 new trucks are now going out of Station 3 and out of Station 1. When the new ladder truck arrives next year, former engine 1, now engine 2, will become engine 4, and we will have truck 2 responding out of Station 2. It is a shell game of what's where. So the 3 oldest apparatus are going to be auctioned off here in short order, so.
So they go to auction?
So it's going to be the old engine 4, the old engine 3, and the now decommissioned truck 2 is going to be going to auction.
So you're keeping the Pierce and one of the?
Yep, the 2015 Pierce that's running out of Station 2 right now. Yep, and then we've got one of these old Elite engines left. We picked the best of the 3, and that's what we're going to be running with. That's now marked as engine 4. Engine 4 is always marked as a reserve engine. Just helps us with our numbering.
What's the life expectancy of the new ones?
New ones, we're hoping, the NFPA says on an engine for a metropolitan department 10 years, but we're looking for 12 to 15. So, they're very impressive trucks.
When the ladder comes, you're getting rid of the 84?
That one's leaving early. We're done with that one now. We don't want to put a $20,000 into it. Who knows? It needs $10,000 worth of tires, $9,000 worth of tires right now. And we've just made the decision not to put that money into something that we're getting rid of right away next year. So we've entered into an agreement with Safer. They're going to, at the times that we've got our current 100-foot platform out of service, they're going to come into town on an automatic aid type assistance, bringing a ladder truck with them. So we'll be getting temporarily some help from our neighbors as far as the ladder truck goes.
Good deal. I like the cost savings and the interdepartmental work together. That's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
It is good. Any questions for Interim Chief Bartek? If not, we'll place that report on file. So thank you for
Thank you.
coming down. We'll see you tomorrow for the tour of those 2 new trucks. Let's see here. So then, that brings us to item 9, which is tavern activities, compliance checks, and law enforcement activities. You have that report in the packets as well. Anybody have questions at all for Deputy Chief Barnes on anything that you see on the report? And you'll notice that there's actually, let me just switch to my packet here. there's actually two reports. They've also started to, in recent months, give us the full report of all of their operations, and then also the Tavern report remains separate. So you have both of those in front of you. If there's no questions on any of those items, we will place that report on file as well. Anything notable on the reports that you wanted to talk about, Deputy Chief?
First and foremost, you'll notice that on the overtime report, we didn't get April's numbers in there, so you see March. That's the second time you've seen that. We'll get that put out to you so you can see those numbers. Generally speaking, the March is the highest overtime because we have a payment for in-service training to our staff, so that's the shocker. And then I would just highlight that, like every other month before, we consistently have heroin and fentanyl overdoses that are negatively impacting the community and the amount of staff time it takes to investigate those. But we're pretty proud of the staff that we have and the work that they do working those investigations.
Okay. Any questions at all? If not, we'll place that report on file. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda, which is communications. I have none. Does anyone have any communications? If not, then our next. If not, that brings us to our, we'll have a number of items on for the June meeting. And I don't believe we have any unfinished business. We do have a license hearing coming up on June 9th. That's going to be a special session for us. And that one's for Wagon Wheel.
Yeah.
Yes, likely to the week after. We're trying to survey for quorum for that.
Okay, good, because it's a non-renewal hearing, so we need to have that done before
Correct. That has
council
to
would
be
approve
finished
the
before.
batch.
Right.
Okay.
And so I believe, was it the 15th of June?
It was.
Was what they were looking at? Yes, and we do have quorum. So the one meeting for June for council will happen after the hearing. So, okay.
I believe this gentleman had asked Mary about comment or signing up, but
Well, I'm not, this is the first time I've attended this committee meeting, and my concern was with the COVID situation winding down, and this may have been spoken to before. Does the city have a policy statement regarding vaccinations of employees?
I believe our HR department has been working with employees to vaccinate since vaccines were available.
As a citizen, it's my concern that every city employee, it's different in terms of the public sphere versus the private sphere. I don't think the city employee should have.
Can you use the microphone, please?
Pardon?
Come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Tony Brown. I live at 715 North Fifth Avenue, in Wausau. As I said, this is my first time attending this committee meeting. I would assume this would come up to this committee, and that's the issue of vaccinations of public employees. As a citizen, I would like to know that I'm dealing with someone from the city who's vaccinated. So if you're going to allow people to not be vaccinated, I'd like them to be identified
That situation
as
actually
not
happened.
vaccinated.
Right, so this committee does not handle employee relations. That is our Human Resources Committee.
But isn't this a health issue?
We handle public health and safety, but we do not mandate employee policy, handbook, dress code, any of that stuff. That all is done by the HR committee that manages the city's workforce. So this committee would not.
So you wouldn't make a recommendation that all employees be vaccinated? That's not your...
We have not. We've encouraged all employees to go and get vaccinated once they were available, and employees have been vaccinating from the time they were available at an early stage. In fact, we began with public safety first because they were the first ones eligible, but as far as I'm aware, any of our workforce is still eligible to go out and get those vaccines. But
Do you have a number for me on what % of the city employees are vaccinated?
we do not have that here in this committee, no.
Who would,
You would
Human
have to-
Resources would have
You would have to
that?
contact the HR director, and they can determine what information they can provide.
So as far as you know, there's no policy?
There's not a policy that requires employees to take a vaccination, no.
Okay. And you have no idea how many people are vaccinated?
We don't get a report on that in this committee.
All right.
All right. With that, any other communications from committee members? I have none. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Wadinski, is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No one wants to stay. We'll stand adjourned then. Thank you, everyone.
Did you want me to have another hearing, Jim?